Elizabeth. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on. But before I say why, I'm going to read your bio. So, Elizabeth is an intuitive mentor and healer and an international best-selling co-author of the book Manifesting with Purpose. Through her work, she helps women activate their potential, step into their power, allowing them to create a life they love and be the best version of themselves. Elizabeth is a mom of two young girls and a wife of 13 years. And again, thanks so much for taking the time to come and join us on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think we're gonna be able to share some beautiful things and have a little fun and have a great combo.
Yeah. So the first question I always ask everyone is, what is your definition of a balanced life?
I love that question, and it's something that I didn't really think about before I got into
Mm,
what I do in personal development and everything. But for me, a balanced life is really just having this peace inside me, this inner peace, this feeling
mm,
of calmness and, joy. So basically having all the time to do all the things that bring you peace and joy. And that can look different for everybody, right? If you have kids,
yeah.
if you don't and you like going out, if you love your job and you love to work, like it's really
Mm-hmm.
just what brings for me like peace and joy and just comfort
Mm,
inside. And so what that looks like for me is having time for my job, having time for my family and my kids, and then relaxation
yeah.
time, and most importantly having time for myself, like having my time, right? My self-care
Mm-hmm.
time, my spiritual practice time. And so that was really important for me to be able to schedule that out and make time for it, right? And so
Mm,
that for me is how
yeah.
I keep a balanced life for me.
That's awesome. And you're actually one of the first people who mentioned this internal piece, like finding balance so that you can have this specific feeling internally. A
Yeah.
lot of the times we look at our balanced life outward. And
Yes.
so I think this is a really important point to kind of flesh out because you can still find inner peace even if things are chaotic, like in your outside life.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times people look for at their outside circumstances, their outside
Hmm.
life to bring them their happiness that they're searching for,
Hmm.
right? And really it all
Yeah.
starts within. Your happiness, your joy, your peace starts with you. And then really it is by shifting your perspective and changing the way you look at things. And then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden everything is completely different, right? When you're able to do that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I say it starts with inward and having this inner peace. What's going to
Yeah.
create this balanced lifestyle for you, right? And so that's such a good point that you make, right? Like a lot of times we always just look at the outside and we
Hmm.
list the typical things, but we can look differently and look at our insides
Hmm.
and see where can I look at things differently to help me feel more balanced and help me find my inner peace. And again, the other thing too
Yeah.
is important to realize is we don't need to rely on anyone else or anything else to allow for this peace, this balance, this happiness. It come like we get to
Yeah.
decide, and that's the beauty of it, right? Is when we could take control of our own happiness, our own balance, our own peace.
Yeah. And so that was one of the reasons why I was really excited for you to come on, because in being a mom and listening to other podcasts, I haven't come across the topic of manifestation and like in spirituality within these types of podcasts. And
Hmm.
I love talking about this topic. It's something that I practice for myself, and that was really what drew me to bring you on as a guest. But can you talk more about maybe how manifestation and spirituality are intermixed? And if you can touch on like what exactly it is for people who might be a little bit skeptical or unsure.
Sure. So this might be a little bit of a long-winded answer, but there's a lot of pieces to it, right?
Yeah.
In that
No, you're
question.
good.
So, manifestation, what is it? It is basically the act of bringing something from your imagination into your physical reality. And
Mhm.
many of us don't realize this, that we've been manifesting our entire lives and we're constantly manifesting. So that's why we use the term purposely manifesting, or, we named our book Manifest with Purpose. Excuse me. So you can actively be intentional about what you are bringing into your reality, what you are creating, how are you looking at things. So a lot
Mhm.
of the times we don't realize that we're creating our own reality based on our thoughts and our emotions, and
Yeah.
what we focus on will be what we attract into our lives, what we bring into our reality. So if you're
Mhm.
constantly worrying, and as a mom, we are all doing this all the time, right? We worry
Yeah.
a lot about our kids, our family. Are we doing enough? All the things that we have to do in the day and get done.
Mhm.
And all that does is put us in a lower vibration. And, there's a saying,
Mhm.
worrying is like praying for what you don't want. So that's
Mhm.
why we try to always look for the best scenario, or we talk about thinking positively. And it's not as
Mhm.
easy as like, oh yeah, let's just think positive thoughts. No big deal, right?
Yeah.
It takes work. It really does take work and
Mhm.
active work for you to become aware of your thoughts and your emotions. And then realizing when you do have those thoughts and emotions that may not feel as good, or maybe, negative in nature, learning how to
Mhm.
switch them. And also understanding that we as humans give everything meaning. So I might decide something is bad where you may not think it is as bad. And I may
Yeah.
think that something is good, but you may not think it's
Mhm.
good. So it's all about our perspective, right? Simple
Mhm.
example that I give all the time that may sound funny is like, I do not like Taco Bell, but my husband loves Taco Bell, right? So like I think it's awful and he thinks it's like the best thing ever. So it's like
Yeah.
we're giving meaning to these things, right? And I
Mhm.
know that's a very silly example, but when contrast happens in our lives and we give it this meaning, and then we get emotionally involved in that meaning, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden we're in this spiral, right? But instead of
Yeah.
giving it, maybe when contrast happens, something happens in our life that doesn't feel as good to us, we try to remain in neutrality. And instead of saying it's good or bad, and some people hate this phrase, but it really helps, it is what it is. So now what am I going
Mhm.
to do about it? How am I going
Yeah.
to, respond rather than react? Am I going to
Mhm.
engage in this thing that I don't like or don't feel comfortable with? No,
Yeah.
I'm going to change my thoughts and focus on how I would love things to be. How would I love this to
Mhm.
turn out? Or what is this trying to teach me here? So these are a lot of
Yeah.
things we talk about manifestation. When you're able to change your thoughts, you're able to change your emotions, you're then
Mhm.
changing your vibration, as we say, or what your vibration and your emotions are the same thing, right? So
Okay.
your emotions set your point of attraction, also known as your vibration. So, and
Okay.
that's what you're going to be bringing into your universe. So we really pay attention to our emotions. That's the biggest thing
Mm.
here. There was a second
Yeah.
part of your question. Can you remind me what that was? I'm so sorry. I know I went off a little bit.
Oh, so before I bring up the second part, I do want to say I used to hate it when my husband would say, "It is what it is." He was like, "Well,
Yeah.
it is what it is." I used to hate it because
Yes.
it made me feel stuck. Like, ugh, we're in this situation that we can't control. But when I turn it around, yeah, I'm in this situation right now feels like I can't control, but what in that can we do something about? And so
Right.
when I was able to shift that viewpoint, it really empowered me to view things differently,
Yes.
to
Yes.
see it that I actually could do something about it
Right.
instead of the feeling of defeat.
Right. You can shift your perspective and say, okay, well, this happened.
Mhm.
So what do we do to resolve it? Or what do we do
Hmm.
to move forward from it? How do we shift
Yeah.
our perspective so we can see the silver lining here? And that
Yeah.
soon enough will, I mean, really just realizing that everything happens for a reason, right? So
Hmm.
it could be A, because your thoughts created that. And so it's a time for you to be able to reflect and look and see, okay, what were my
Hmm.
previous thoughts and what were my previous emotions to create this situation? And then you can
Hmm.
learn from it. Or it's just a lesson that you're here to learn. What am I here? What is
Yeah.
this trying to teach me? Is it trying to teach me patience, strength, courage,
Yeah.
whatever it is? And then take that lesson and be grateful for it. Or it's just the
Hmm.
universe showing you what you don't want. So you can say, thank you, universe, for showing me what I do not want in my life. I bless and
Yeah.
release this, and now this is what I would love. Like instead, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
think you,
people get
yeah,
stuck all the time with trying to figure out, oh, but I don't know. Because I see this a lot in my clients where they are saying, I don't really know what I want, or I've been following the direction of so many people that I haven't learned to identify what it is that I want for me based on
right.
my own values and desires versus the desires of other people for me.
Mm-hmm. That's huge
And
with
so,
huge with women
yeah.
and moms, I have found, right? They don't even know what they
Hmm.
want anymore in life. And that's like one of the first things that we do when I work with clients is I have them make a list of 50 things that they want. And it's really
Mm.
difficult for them. Like they
Wow.
have,
Yeah.
my clients have not allowed themselves to dream for so long
Mm.
and think about all the wonderful things that they could have. They're like, well, I don't
Yeah.
need much. But at the end of
Hmm.
the day, abundance is our birthright and we can have
Hmm.
anything that we desire. And we are meant to be abundant and have everything that we desire. And it's
Hmm.
okay to want beautiful things. It's okay to want
Yeah.
beautiful experiences in this life, right?
Hmm.
I think a lot of us feel like, oh, well, we don't need that. Or, there's so many people that are suffering, so I don't want to be
Yeah.
greedy. This is another big realization for, I think, women and moms. Like this
Yeah.
abundance pie that there's
Hmm.
no like pie, right? For abundance that we all have to share from. It's an unlimited, infinite amount
Yeah.
of abundance that is available to all of us in this world. And so we get to decide how much
Hmm.
we want, but that doesn't affect how much anyone else can have in this universe. And the more that you
Yeah.
have, then the more you can give. So it's
Hmm.
just becomes this beautiful cycle, right? Of, allowing more into your life, and then you can also be more generous with those around you
Hmm.
and those that you love.
Yeah. And reiterating, you having something is not taking away from someone else. You
Exactly.
having something allows you to give to other people and
Hmm.
to redistribute all of this abundance.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And also, whatever anyone has done in this world is possible for you too. So, if anything, it's
Hmm.
proof and motivation for anyone else to see what is possible for them in their lives too.
Yeah.
So, these
Hmm.
are all beautiful points. And I think you had asked about spirituality intertwining, right, with manifestation.
Yes, so that was within that question, but one of the things that we probably should address now is for anyone who's skeptical about like the manifestation process and all of this quote unquote woo-woo stuff, right?
Yes.
Because that's how it's usually brought up as in, oh, that's I don't know about that. Is that just a bunch of woo stuff? And for
Yeah.
me, it's like, oh, I love all this woo stuff. Like I because it's spirituality really
Right.
when you step
Mhm.
back and look at it.
Yeah. So, look, whatever you believe to be true will be true. And I'm not here to convince anyone, to believe what I believe, but
Mhm.
my life has changed in such a positive way since believing the woo, like really getting
Mhm.
into it and
Yeah.
really learning about it and discovering it and realizing that I get to create my own reality and I get to
Mhm.
decide how I feel. I used to be the negative Nancy. I used to be the let me see your manager kind of person, and I was always like, I will get my way and I have to fight for it, and I and
Yeah.
I struggled and I worried and I stressed and I freaked out about money like once a month usually, right? But since
Mm.
realizing when I could become aware of my thoughts and that could change my whole reality, I live such a happier and more peaceful life. And I know deep down inside that everything is always working out for me and that I am divinely guided and I am divinely supported. And so anyone that's, skeptical, you can just look at your life and see
Hmm.
when have you, when have things like you worried about something and then it happened, or when you truly
Yeah.
believe something would happen and then it happened, right?
Hmm.
So there are ways to look at your life and reflect back and be like, oh yeah, like I was worried about this and then it, of course it happened, right? Or I
Hmm.
was really excited about this and I was like, yes, I knew this was going to happen and it happened.
Yeah.
You just have to look at the proof. And I could tell you stories all day long how I've brought in, I'm happy to share a couple of my, manifestation stories if you think that would be helpful.
Oh
I could,
yeah. Let
yeah. So,
let's talk about some of these manifestation stories because when you were talking, some of my own popped into my head.
yeah.
And I think what people don't realize, and I'm glad you brought this up, look back
Yes.
at the times where you wanted something and it just felt like it happened so easily and so quickly. Like,
Right.
if you have an experience like that, look back at it. What was the difference between something that felt that it came a lot quicker and easier versus a time where you felt like you had to struggle for something?
Yeah. So real quick before we get in the stories, it's all about belief. Like, so if
Mhm.
you desire something, but you don't believe you can have it, or you believe it's going to be hard to
Mhm.
obtain it, then it's going to be hard to obtain it. And you most
Yeah.
likely it will take a long time for you to get it, if ever. But when you detach
Hmm.
from the outcome and you're like, oh, this would be so great, but if I don't get it, it's okay. Usually that's when it shows
Yeah.
up because you're not
Hmm.
so dependent on that result, right? And at the end of the day, it's really the feeling that we want with these things that we desire,
Hmm.
whatever that feeling is, whether it be freedom or peace or happiness or excitement, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's the feeling we want to focus on. So when we are so concentrated on something not showing up in our life, we're actually
Hmm.
pushing it away. So the goal is to be happy now as you are
Yeah.
in your life right here and now and be in joyful expectation. So I'm so happy and grateful for all the abundance I have in my life now while I expect and I'm excited for this thing to come, right? It's already
Hmm.
mine. It's already, mine because I've seen it in my imagination. And so that means
Yeah.
it's meant for me. It just hasn't shown up in the physical reality yet for whatever reason, whether it be divine timing, like it's not the right timing in your life, or you just fully haven't merged with the belief that you can have
Mm.
that thing. So I'll give you a couple stories of manifestation. So this happened a couple years ago where our hot water heater, our hot water heater broke.
Hmm.
And the old me before I got in this material would have freaked out, would have been like, oh my God, like, how are we gonna pay for this? It's blah, blah,
Yeah.
gone off, like totally would have panicked. And I remember looking at it in the morning and being like, no, all right, well, it is what it is. We'll figure it out. It will figure it out. The money will come.
Hmm.
So we called the plumber. He came, he was on his way or he came. I can't remember if he had come or not yet, but 2 hours later, after I had said that, I got a phone call from my employer at the time who said to me, oh, I forgot to give you this bonus that, I usually give you in the spring. I'm sending it to you now.
Wow.
And literally was more than enough to pay for this hot water heater because I trusted that it would be okay. It would work
Yeah.
out and the money would come. And it came because
Hmm.
I was so like, all right, whatever, detached from it. So that's like a little like example. And then I will tell you the story how I manifested our home. So
Okay.
we wanted to move in a bigger home, and I started, really learning about manifestation in 2020, like 2020.
Hmm.
And in 2021, I think I started sometime in the middle of the year, started really writing this goal. I'm so happy and grateful now that we live in our dream home on 1+ acre of land.
Mm.
That was what we wanted. We wanted to have more land.
Okay.
And I gave myself a deadline of December 15th, 2022. It was a very specific deadline because that was like the last like that would be, we wouldn't be able to move after that, I felt, because my daughter was going into
Mm,
junior high the next year.
okay.
And I didn't want to move her in the middle of junior high, like, or starting in the new
Yeah.
junior high. So I figured if we move while she's in fifth grade still, she'll be able to meet some friends, the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the deadline I gave myself, and I wrote it and over and over and over again for a year and a half. And so finally we started to, and this is a trick for manifestation, is connecting with the emotion of
Mm,
that thing that you want,
hmm.
putting yourself in situations where you can feel what it would feel like to be in, for example, your dream home,
Yep.
and seeing yourself there. So we started to go look at houses to see
Mm,
what we wanted, what we didn't want, and just imagine
yeah.
ourselves in this dream home. And then one day my realtor at the time sent me, I think we looked at what our house was worth that we were currently living in. And,
Hmm.
in the summer, last summer, it had skyrocketed a little bit. So we started to move towards like actually selling our home and doing all these things because I held
Mm.
this vision. I was keeping it on my mind all the time. So we had a
So
house.
before you even had the house you were going to buy, you started the process of selling your own home.
Yes, yes,
Okay. Yeah. So
yes,
you were that much in this belief, like you just knew this was going to happen.
right.
And so you were going through those steps like, okay, well, we're going to, if we're
We
going to buy a house, we're
started
going to also need to sell ours.
For sure. So we started, like, packing it up. We started getting it ready to
Mm,
show, like doing all the like little fix up things. And
hmm.
then we had found a house that we were going to buy and put our house right on the market. We sold our house super fast, like within 2 weeks, we had sold it. And the house we were going to buy ended up falling through, not on our end, on the other person's end. And
Okay.
here we
Hmm.
were basically like, okay, well, we are now homeless because we decided not to
Oh.
rescind our, sale, right? But thank God my mother let us move in with her for the time being, and we put our whole entire house in storage, like 3 storage units,
Mm,
still holding the vision
wow.
that we were going to
Yeah.
find this house, like our dream home, right? And we're
Hmm.
like, we'll figure it out. It is what it is. We'll just deal with it and it will all work out. And so, long story, not short, but to end the story, we ended up closing on our new house, which has 1.2 acres of land, on December 12th, 2022. So,
Wow.
3 days
Yeah.
before my end goal that I had been writing for a year and a half. So, like, the lesson of the story is like holding the vision, of what it is
Hmm.
that you desire, and that anything can happen even in the 11th hour. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, I set this goal and I
Hmm.
gave myself that much time. Maybe if I didn't give myself as much time, it would have happened sooner, not so down to the
Yeah.
wire. But you know what I'm saying? Like, these things are, there's just so many stories out there
Mm.
of
Hmm.
manifestation proofs that it's like,
Yeah.
it's just so powerful when you realize what you can create in your life.
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes it's difficult because we have maybe limiting beliefs that are getting in the way.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought that up is for one of my stories is my parents raised me with the belief that no matter what, you're going to go to college. You're going to
Yeah.
go to
Me too.
college, you're going to get a degree, you're going to get your, because no one in my family had ever gone to college. So they were like, this is going to be you, like, you're going to be it. You're going to go to college. So like, okay. So all through like my school, going high school and all that, I never had a doubt that I
Right.
wasn't going to get into college. That was just going to be. So when it came time to applying for college, sure, I was nervous, but there was no doubt that I
Hmm.
was going to get in, even to the point where I only applied at two schools. And it was, so I'm in Texas.
Yeah.
And in Texas, if you're at the time, it was like the top 10%, but I think now it's like 5%. If you're at the
Yeah.
top 10 or 5% of your class, depending on school stuff, you are automatically accepted into public universities.
Hmm.
And some big ones here, like Texas A&M, University of Texas at Austin, and Texas Tech University.
Hmm.
I didn't even apply to those. I thought, well, I know I'll get into those, and I don't want to go to the schools where I'm going to still hang out with the people that I hang out with now. I want to
Yeah.
grow and find myself without relying on the people that I rely now on. And so I ended up applying to Baylor University and another, I think it was an incarnate word, but I wanted to go to Baylor. And I got in to both of
Mhm.
those schools. But it's because I had no doubt. Like I
Right.
knew it. Even when I got the acceptance into Baylor, um, I thought that there was going to be this excitement, but that excitement wasn't there because I knew it. Like I
Right.
knew I
Right.
was going to go there. And
Right.
so it's funny because I didn't have that, oh my gosh, yes, I got in because I knew like this
Right.
this was no question. I was going to get in and I
Right.
did.
It was just like,
And
of course I
so
got in. Of course.
yeah, but
Hmm.
that's because I never had. No one ever told me I wasn't going to happen for me. It was
Right.
always like, you're going to go to college, you're going to do great. And, I went to college, I got my master's after that. And I even got into like the number one school of social work at the time, because my
Hmm.
master's degree is in social work, because I never doubted that I wasn't going to get into these places.
Right.
And I see that now because I've only recently started my manifestation journey almost a year ago, was actually in like November, December of last year. And so
Hmm.
being able to reflect on all the things that I have manifested is really eye-opening.
Yeah, yeah, it really does show you the proof. And if you're
Hmm.
new to manifestation or you can't think of something that you have manifested, then just try manifesting a simple thing like a free cup of
Yeah.
coffee or $5 or whatever, something
Yeah.
really easy that feels easy and fun. And, because a lot of us put again meaning to things that are
Hmm.
bigger in nature like a house or
Yeah.
$100,000. We think that's difficult or hard or big, right? But it
Yeah.
really honestly takes the same amount of energy to manifest $10 as it does $10,000. It's just
Yeah.
what vibration you're on, what frequency you're on. And
Hmm.
the belief is what is
Yeah.
really the key here.
Hmm. And if
Yeah.
for some reason, and I'm sure you can, talk a little bit more about this, you don't feel that whatever your desires that they're manifesting, there likely is some like internal limiting belief that's getting in the way.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really, we say is if your desires have not manifested, it's because you have not merged with the belief that it is possible for you, that you don't
Hmm.
believe it's yours or it's already done. And that's an emotional set point, right? Because you
Hmm.
attract what you are, meaning you attract the vibration that you are because you can only attract in your life what you're a vibrational match to. So if you're not vibrating on the frequency of money, more money, for instance, which is a high vibrational thing, you're not going to be able to attract it. And if
Hmm.
you're, on this low vibration, which means like lower emotions, if you ever look up the vibration frequency scale, you might want to do, you'll see different, it's like a scale from like 0 to 1,000. And, there's like
Okay.
love and happiness, joy,
Mm.
anger, sadness is lower vibrational
Yeah.
emotions. That's what we're talking about, right? So paying attention to how you feel is so important.
Hmm.
And when you're thinking about what it is you want to manifest, the most important thing is to pay attention to how you would feel if you had that thing in your life. Like, what is the feeling associated with that? And then practice
Hmm.
feeling that feeling. So I
Yeah.
recommend, my clients visualizing, which if you don't know what visualizing is, it's basically going into your imagination and seeing yourself in this scenario with your goal achieved. So
Hmm.
say you want your dream home. We'll give that's a simple example.
Hmm.
So you can see yourself, I used to see myself going throughout my day in my dream home, like waking up, doing my spiritual practices, getting my kids off to school, then, working out in my home,
Hmm.
taking a shower during the day, because as a mom, that doesn't really ever happen, like,
Yeah.
and so that was like a dream of mine, right? I get half and half. Some days I do, sometimes it's at night still.
Well, yeah.
But,
One day you wash your hair, one day you just like do a rinse off.
Exactly. I mean, let's be honest, I don't wash my hair every day, but that's okay. It's better
Yeah.
for you anyway. So, but then I would, do my clients, work on my clients, and then my kids
Hmm.
would go, like, and I was seeing myself in my dream home doing these things. So, and then I was really feeling the emotion of how I would
Hmm.
feel, which for me was freedom and happiness and joy and comfort, right? And that's the
Yeah.
feeling is the secret. I don't know if you ever heard that term, but it really is.
Oh yeah, yeah. I hadn't heard like the feeling is the secret, but I have heard that the the feeling is what matters the most. Like we had said earlier, so many of us will try and or not try, but they believe I can't feel that unless my outer world is reflecting that or gives me that.
Right.
But it's
Right. And
actually reverse. If you can feel the peace and happiness and whatever it is that you want to be feeling within you, that's going to be reflected in your outside world.
that's exactly it. And that's what I had said before. It's first inward, it's first
Hmm.
inner, and then the outer world reflects back to
Hmm.
you, right? And that's
Yeah.
everything is first created in our imagination first, and then it is
Hmm.
manifested into our physical reality. So you have to feel the feeling first. You have to believe that the
Hmm.
thing that you desire is already yours. It's already yours. And
Yeah.
feel that peace, like that happiness now. Like I had said before, there's only now. So we are happy now with what we have, how our
Hmm.
life is, and being grateful for what we do have, because that is
Hmm.
going to allow us to have more things to come in our lives to be grateful for. The more you are grateful
Yeah.
for what you have now, the more you will bring in to be grateful for.
Hmm. And how has creating this balance in your life been able to help you to do that?
To bring more things in, or just be,
Or to feel, to feel that inner peace that you had mentioned at the very
yeah.
beginning.
Yeah, for me, it really is just knowing that everything is going to be okay, that everything's going to work out.
Mm,
We're always going to be okay, no matter what. No matter what my outside world looks like, we
yeah.
always will be okay. And so that has really helped with my inner peace and, like less anxiety, less stress, less worry. I just no
Yeah.
longer let the outside world and others affect my inner peace. So, and it's not being ignorant to what is going on in the world, which a lot of people sometimes will say, but
Mm,
it's just not allowing it to affect my happiness in my world because I know that everything is always working out for me. And so what I can say to that is yes, we can have empathy for, those struggling and all of
mhm.
the, violence around the world and the terrible things that are happening, but you don't have to allow it to affect your inner peace. And by how we can help is by sending love. And
Yeah.
so we are all connected. And this is getting more into the spiritual side where I
Yeah.
truly believe, and this is what I believe, and many of my mentors believe, is we are all connected as one, right?
Mhm.
So whenever I'm sending out this vibration of love, you can feel it, you will receive it. So if I'm directly sending you love or the world love, it will be felt energetically. And
Yeah.
the more that we can all do this, the more that we can all send out love to the world, the more that it will raise the consciousness of the world and
Mhm.
raise the love. And with more love, we have less hate, right? And that's all we're really here to strive for, besides evolving and growing, but
Yeah.
to lift each other up and help each other with our love. And so that is how I, deal with the tragedies that are going on in the
Mhm.
world. And, the sadness is I
Yeah.
send love and I help raise up the consciousness of the world by doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we people can go into a spiral thinking about all those things,
For sure.
but if you're looking at the big picture, you as one person can't affect what's going on. So it's not going to do any good to worry about that specific thing that is far away from you, but you can
Right.
still help energetically.
Correct.
instead of
Exactly.
feeling defeated about those things going on that are outside your control.
Right, 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 exactly. So yeah, that's what a lot of people in the spiritual, world really truly believe. Like
Hmm.
they had a study one time where I can't remember where I read this. I think I read it in a book, but they had a study one time where in a city that was high crime for 30 days straight, there was a group of people
Mm.
that would just meditate together for an hour at a time, sending love to everyone in that city. And the crime actually reduced. Like after the 30 days,
Wow.
they noticed on the scale that the crime had actually reduced. So it
Yeah.
is the proof is there. Like it's really
Hmm.
possible to
Yeah.
do this. But not everyone is not aware but open to this
Hmm.
information and believing it, and that's okay. Like I said, not everyone is. We're not here to change anyone's minds or convince
Yeah.
anybody, but whatever you believe to be true will be true. So this is what has helped me deal with everything that's
Hmm.
going out in this world and in my lifetime,
Hmm.
right, and what I can do to help.
Yeah. And if you are listening and you describe yourself or see yourself as a more logical person, more scientific based, there are actually so many studies, scientific studies that prove that these things
Yes.
are real and are not just woo woo stuff. They've
Yeah.
been proven and studied.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. If
Hmm.
you're someone that's really like, I want to see the evidence, Dr. Joe
Yeah.
Dispenza is a great person to study, like, or look up his YouTubes or read his book because he gives multiple
Mm.
examples where people are healing their own bodies with their mind. So, I mean, just by energetically giving themselves
Yeah.
healing every day, by using their mind and using their logic and what they see.
Hmm.
So, that's just one person I know that has scientific proof, but he's very scientific
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there's lots of stuff out there.
Hmm.
And I of course I'm blanking on anything specific, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a great resource. He's a little deeper, I think, so it's not always easy to understand what he's saying, if you're new to this information.
Mm.
It wasn't for me at least. That's just my own personal experience.
Yeah.
But, it really does show you what the proof is like out there,
Hmm.
in just another example of it.
Yeah. How did you step in or fall into this other world, basically?
Yeah, so like you, I was told I was going to college after high school. Like it's just what we did, and I was going to go and get a business degree because I didn't really know what else to do. I didn't really have anything I was like super passionate about. I was like, sure, that sounds good. I'm good at business. Like I'm good at accounting and all those things. And, did the typical thing. And I, worked in the same job for like 16 years and I decided that I was ready to do something different. Like I was meant
Mm.
to help people in some way, but I wasn't sure
Yeah.
how yet, right? And that kind of like started my whole actual deep dive in my spiritual journey. I
Hmm.
had always been more spiritual, but I mean, I was raised Catholic, confirmed,
Okay.
everything, went to church, all the things. Just didn't
Yeah,
ever
so
really
was I. So that's
resonate.
yeah, so
Yeah,
funny. Yeah.
never resonated with it, never really felt a connection to it, always bored out of
Mm.
my mind in church. So I was like, and I've always also known psychic people in my life, like through my
Mm.
mom. Like she always had friends that were a psychic some way in some form.
Hmm.
And I always knew I was intuitive. And
Mm.
so I had tried a couple times to read a book or like play with tarot cards and I never really could do it. So now I was finally ready,
Mm.
right? Like everything in divine timing when you're really ready to commit to it.
Yeah.
So I found my first mentor, which was a psychic development teacher, and developed my psychic abilities, which I love that I have and I was able to
Mm.
do. But I felt like there was a piece of it missing. And, just kept opening myself up to receive and like find mentors. And I
Mm.
saw my next mentor on TikTok and she was holding a free masterclass. And when I started in the masterclass, I was like, wow, this is really, she was teaching on mindset and manifestation. And that was really
Okay.
powerful, right? And I was like, I want that. Like, I want this to be easy. I want that for my life. Like, so I
Yeah.
signed up with her. And then a couple months in, my life had already begun to change. And I don't know if you're familiar with who Bob Proctor is, but
Okay.
he was one of the top leading personal development industry leaders, and he was on The
Mm,
Secret, the movie. So he was her
okay.
mentor. He was my mentor's mentor, and I had studied his program first. And it had
Mm,
started to change my life so much. I was like, man, I just wish everyone knew this information. Like, this is so
yeah.
powerful. I'm completely changing my mindset and I'm so much
Mm,
happier. And then one day my mentor was like, we need more people to teach this information, to spread this information, to
mm,
help the world. And it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, that's it. I was like, that's my
yeah.
thing. That's what I'm here to do, right? And it has developed since then. Like now I
Mm,
am more of not just a mindset and manifestation teacher, but also a spiritual mentor, an activator through other avenues and everything like that. And so I really help my clients now
mm,
step into their power, activate their gifts, activate their
yeah.
ability to manifest with my power, with my abilities and my
Mm,
spirituality, and I have healing abilities too, so I use a lot of that in my mentoring. That in a nutshell is how I got into this. And
yeah.
I never before thought I would ever take like a personal development thing because it was just like college. I was like, oh yeah, I went to college. That's what I
Mm,
did. And I never had a zeal to get my master's degree, and I never knew why. But
mhm.
maybe this is why, because I really wouldn't have used it, right? It would have been like not anything I really used. So this is what I
Yeah.
was waiting for, right? This is my form of
Mm,
a master's degree, like,
mhm.
higher education, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and personal development, it's so important. I
Yes.
mean, my belief in terms of like our purpose here is we're here to become better versions of ourselves.
Yes.
Because at some
100%.
point we won't be here anymore, but there is more beyond this. Because I don't
Yes.
believe we're just here to live this life and that's it.
No.
Um, Not at all. That it just doesn't make any sense. But I know other people view things differently. But so my belief is we're constantly striving to be a better version of ourselves. So if we're
Yes.
not engaging in any kind of personal development, then we're staying stagnant,
Mm-hmm.
or you risk staying stagnant, or not learning the lessons that you're supposed to learn, so you
Mm-hmm.
can achieve your divine purpose, which you've have so far found, right?
Yes, yes, and it will
Yeah.
probably keep evolving because that's
Hmm.
really essentially, like you said, we're here to evolve and grow and
Hmm.
continue to learn certain
Yeah.
lessons. And that was one thing that Bob Proctor always used to say, like, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so if you're not
Mm,
evolving, you're dying. And so what's the
yeah.
point, right? Like that's
Hmm.
really, and this is my belief, we are a spiritual soul living this human experience. And
Yeah.
so we are not our bodies. We are not like I'm Elizabeth, yes, but on a soul,
Hmm.
it's not like that's all I am. So I believe
Yeah.
in multiple lives. I believe in
Mm,
reincarnation and learning lessons and
hmm.
after we transition, reflecting on our life
Yeah.
and what we've learned and how we can become a better version of ourselves in the next life or whatever we decide to
Hmm.
learn in the next life. But yeah, it just makes it so much for me,
Mm,
like so much more of a purpose, right? And
yeah.
peaceful and being able to just enjoy every moment because you're like, what can I learn from
Hmm.
this moment? Or just
Yeah.
be grateful for this moment so you
Hmm.
can have experience these things such as love, happiness,
Yeah.
joy, and even the hurt sometimes too, right? Because they're important
Hmm.
lessons too.
Yeah. But I know we could keep talking probably for hours, but we
Probably.
are running out of time.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to work with you or reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact with you? What's the best place that they can find you at? Are you on, social media?
Yeah, I'm on pretty much all social media platforms. Facebook is, my main one that I use.
Okay.
It's just my name, elizabethplanson.com is my website. And
Okay.
then that's all my social media handles is Elizabeth Planson. You can, DM me, you can reach out on my page. Yeah, and before we go, I just wanted to share, one thing is, that has
Hmm.
helped us as my husband and I as parents
Mm,
with kids, teaching them about mindset and manifestation and this thing that my husband does every night with our kids because he's the bedtime guy. We call it two things, and
mm,
we ask the girls two things that you're grateful for in your life now, two things that you're proud of about yourself, and two things that you love about yourself. And so we're teaching them, gratitude, we're teaching them
Mm.
self-love, and, really just empowering themselves for seeing how beautiful they are as a person, and they love it. They
Yeah.
really do love it. So I just wanted to share that little tip with, all of,
No, I'm so glad you
all of,
did. Because
yeah.
I meant to bring that up and we just got caught up in
I
so
know,
many
I
other
know.
things.
Right, right.
But
But
I'm
yeah,
really glad that you made it a point to bring that up because it's so important when you're going through this journey on your own, but then thinking, how can I have my children maybe join me in this journey or teach them these things so that they don't create these limiting beliefs, that they have these like beliefs and thoughts for abundance. And that's a
yes.
perfect way to start. Yeah.
Definitely. It's an easy way for them to get into it and start teaching them about, looking for the positive in every day, no matter what, and the
Yeah.
magic in every day that we experience, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for taking the time to come and speak. And I
Thank
hope you
you.
have a wonderful rest of your week.
Yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to be here today.
We'll see you